Hi guys, it's that time of week again. Welcome back to another Forge of Solace Paints. I'm Wayne. You might remember that Brent over at Goobertown Hobbies was kind enough to help me randomly select a few things that I was going to start painting for my Dark Angels. Well, it's been a little while. Shall we take a look at what I've done? Like with all Space Marines, Dark Angels have a fairly strong aesthetic. I wanted to do something a little bit different than the standard Games Workshop style of Dark Angel, so I designed my own variant colour scheme, using a little bit more black to go with the green, keeping it nice and dark, but with little pops of colour in there. Obviously we've got the robes that brings things out as well. And this really lended itself to me having the various aspects of the Dark Angel Hexagrammaton, so there's going to be 6 different styles of these, and I can vary it up quite easily. Starting off then, I used my standard green wing recipe with a slight variation, and to be honest guys, mistakes were made here. What I did was, once I got to the end of the airbrushing stage, I tend to brush on 2 thin coats of thinned down Colia green shade. This time I decided to run that green shade through the airbrush. This was a really bad idea. It took away all the poppy highlights, gave it a really dull matte finish, and it just didn't work for me. I carried on, pushed through with it, but certainly going forward I won't be doing that again. After that, I tried to speed up things a little bit more than I did previously, so I was a little bit less careful with my hedge highlighting. It's still a reasonable tabletop standard, but it was done much faster. Is there any point in going over top on troops? Unless the characters, probably not. I've always tried to push myself and paint everything as well as I could, but with such a large catalogue of minis to get through, especially with quite a few conversions in there, I'm taking a few liberties. I changed up a colour scheme a little bit compared to what I had done. I did less OSL. In fact, these had no OSL on them at all. Like here on the eyes, previously I'd done much more glowing effect. Right now, I've just taken it down to 3 simple stages. Certainly for the characters, I'll be doing a little bit more, keeping it a little bit tidier, and trying to make it a bit extra special. But for these guys, I'm afraid they look good, but they're not fantastic. Of course, with Dark Angels, there is another problem that I was really eager to avoid as well. Going with the green and red colour scheme, it's possible that you can make them look a little bit like a Christmas tree, so I was trying to keep the amount of red I used to a minimum and try and keep the colours as muted as possible, still keeping the poppy highlights but not oversaturate those reds. Another area I've tried to save time is on the metallics. It's not something I really enjoy painting, to be honest, so this time I thought I'd just try basing them with a dry brush, and it worked out quite well for the most part. I've still come in with a couple of layers of highlights, but I think I'm going to go with this method going forward, certainly for the rest of the standard troops. It seemed to work a treat. Somewhere else I saved a little bit of time over my standard recipe was with the reds. I actually based all the reds using a terracotta red through an airbrush, and then I went in and highlighted them, but only with 2 layers of highlights on these compared to the 5 layers of highlights I'd done on the previous minis. This really did save time. They still look alright, certainly tabletop standard, and they do the job absolutely fine. So that's probably something I'll be doing on the troop types next time as well. So all of the intercessors, any reavers, that kind of thing, I'll be basing as much as possible using the airbrush, I think. No reason not to. If there's anything here you want to see me go into more detail and make a specific tutorial on, let me know down in the comments. I did find a quick cheat as well here. After airbrushing the reds over the top of the black, I faded the reds out towards the lighter parts of the model, so up towards the top. This kind of let me cheat by having much fewer layers of highlights on the actual mini overall, and then using a much brighter highlight for the edge highlights. Just tied it all together. It's a very similar effect to what I achieved before, but took me less than half the time. Nice little happy accident there. I wasn't expecting it to look quite as good as it did. Another area to save time was on the hoods and the robes. I just based it with Shanty Bone, a couple of layers of that, washed in Seraphim Sepia, and then came back in with some highlights of Shanty Bone mixed with a little bit of white. I still got some texture in there, but nowhere near as much as I was putting on the character models from the previous set of Marines I did. That did save a fair bit of time. It still looks quite good as well. Certainly another time-saving tip there that's going to carry through to the rest of the armour. Well, if you've made it this far and you're not already, please do hit that subscribe button. There'll be much more Dark Angels content to come. Not just troops, but I'll be working on some characters and conversions. Keep an eye on that. I'll tackle some of the more advanced techniques when I work on the character models. Well, we're coming to the end of it now, so let's have a look at how they turned out, shall we? Well guys, what do you think? What's next? Well, you're going to have to stay tuned to find out. If you're not already, make sure you subscribe. Don't forget you can find me live streaming here on YouTube a couple of times a week. Make sure you follow me on my socials to find out when I'm going live. Come along, hang out on Hobby, let's have a chat. Well guys, that's it for this week. So until next week, remember, if you're going to do crack, make sure it's plastic. See ya!